Good evening. It's Sunday, the 2nd of September. It's the day before some schools go back, 2 days before the others go back. And already the traumatic times are showing, and a couple of members down, suicidal. Right behind me here is the Civil Justice Centre, Family Courts, Justice Centres. This is where a lot of things are dished out wrongly. A lot of parents who suffer the rigours behind these court doors, the trauma, the bullying, the terrorism that happens behind these very family court doors. In a lot of cases this is done through safeguarding agency called CASCAF, court appointed CAFCAS workers that make recommendations to the court. Recommendations that they find dealing with children for 20 minutes to an hour. Children's parents suicidal after having their contact severed, the relationship severed. Do we know the statistics of this? No. It's impossible for us to know because these doors are closed. Absolutely they're closed. What I can tell you, myself over the last 2 years, I've dealt with 130 plus suicidal people, where I've had to be on the phone with ambulances, or had to get the police, or had to be on the phone with these members who are absolutely distraught of the fact of wondering whether they'll ever see their children again because of what goes on behind these court doors here, these secret court doors. Many people out there may never ever ever have to enter into these buildings. I pray you don't. Many people out there think that the family courts are there for a purpose, to protect the children. Many parents out there go into these family courts in anticipation of having their contact reinstated. Naively, they walk through these doors and expect to get justice for their children, and get nothing but grief, bullying tactics, go and do assessments, go on parenting courses, go on this course, go on that course, hoop after hoop after hoop, month after month after month, severing the relationship between the child and that parent, which is emotional harm, whilst they scream from the rooftops. These very agencies, there is a risk of emotional harm or risk of future emotional harm, while this is already happening. Risk of because they can't prove it, because they're not qualified to do so. 130, over 130 members to date, suicidal. Mostly fathers, but some mothers. Today a mum and a dad, suicidal. That's not how many that have been dealt with through dads. That's how many I have dealt with. Admins have dealt with many as well. So over 2 years there's been over 200, well over 200 members that have been suicidal, some of them on the brink. There have been thousands of members in what I call their backside on the floor, where these courts leave them with their backsides on the floor, where their exes have no empathy, no remorse to what happens to them, and these family courts, they don't care neither. The paramountcy in these buildings here is with the resident parent, because that resident parent has the time to build the alliance, manipulate who they need to manipulate, and build the alliance with who they need beyond that alliance, while the targeted parent is even trying to get into the court. During that 3 months that they tried to get into the court, the agencies such as social services will have already put a stamp, sealed approval of settled. The child is settled. And if nobody knows out there what that word means, settled, it means that it's very difficult for that child to be removed from that, where that child is. In a place where parents do not have the empathy, remorse of the parent, and do not care about using the child as a weapon behind family court doors. How many take their lives? I don't know. We have had numerous ones that have come on there where people have lost their lives, lost their fought, the fallen. How can we know? These family court doors are closed. There may be parents that are fighting for their children that lose their lives, but there are still grandparents and so on that are still out there trying to fight to see these children. See, the problem this country has, and every other country is, it's not just the parents that are stopped from seeing the children, it's the whole family. So there are grandparents, grandmothers and grandfathers out there watching their children suffer while their children are fighting for their children. Trauma, coercive PTSD. No parent would be going through this if they weren't dragged through a family court process that's paramountcy lies on what the ex did. The paramountcy that lies on lies and untruths. There is nothing factual that goes through these doors. The only thing there is misinterpretations of everything, like the Marek reports. The Marek report is something that is made up. If anyone puts in complaints to the police of domestic violence, domestic abuse, it ends up on PPDs. This ends up on the Marek report, so multi-agencies can get hold of anything if they ever should need to. So depending on how good the actresses these ones are, these exes are, depends on whether you're a low, medium or a high-risk DV. Domestic violence, domestic abuse, trauma. Right there, behind them doors. It's not just the parents now that are committing suicide. It is the multitude of young teens that have been through this early on in their life, that come to teenage times when they could be self-harming, suicidal themselves, prostitution, drugs, alcohol. Yes, every child is susceptible to becoming that. But research has shown that more, through what goes on with these family courts, has shown that more are suffering the ill effects of family courts. There should be a health warning stuck on the top of the doors of these buildings. A health warning to warn people of the health risks that there are, including death. Yes, including death. Should have the warnings. Enter year. Mental health. Mental health with children as well. Death. Suicide with members who struggle to even deal with it, everyday basic things in life because of the trauma of having their children ripped away from them. Also, it should have that warning for the death because of the young teenage children that come of age after they've been through it themselves and they come through age, or even when they're adults, that end up suicidal because of what happens behind these family court doors. There needs to be reform in family courts. I've put this on YouTube because tonight I've travelled down here, September the 2nd. Time now is 18 minutes past 10. And today, dealing with 2 members suicidal again because of these places here. Something has to be done. If there are any issues with parents and whether it's alcohol or drugs or anything else, there are things called contact centres. But them contact centres are abused because exes force their partners, their ex-partners, the targeted parents into them. Oh yeah, you can see the child, you can see in a contact centre. Control. And in controlling the child, they are coercively controlling the child. They are coercively controlling that parent. That parent does not want to go into the contact centre, nor does that child. But they are coercively controlled. So when we say that coercive control is against the law for who? Suicide. You know, there is no coming back from it. And my heartbreaking worry is that these children will grow up to find out the truth, and guilt and everything else that will follow with that will absolutely shred them. Absolutely shred them. I implore people to share this video. I implore people to understand the reality of what goes on behind these secret family court doors. Please. It's a plea I have. Something. I've stood outside many of these family court doors. I stand for children who have no voice. We have to deal with the aftermath of parents that come back through these court doors when nobody cares. There is no empathy, none. Care means to these people, don't care. In everyday life, nobody can deal with a lot of things in trauma. One of the things that's undoubtedly the hardest thing to deal with is having that relationship severed. Hard to deal with for the child. Emotional harm. Having that relationship severed with their parent. And then inevitably also the severance with the relationship of that parent with the child. And some of these parents have no idea when they will ever see their children again, if they will ever see their children again. And that's why they feel the way they do, and that's why they do what they do. There have been deaths, many deaths, as we seen not long ago. 84 men committing suicide every week. 84 men committing suicide every week. Do we know how many of them were in the family courts? Because we don't. Do we know exactly how many of them are going through mental health issues because of family courts? The trauma? What we do know is they are there. If I've dealt with 120, over 130, sorry, people who have been seriously suicidal, and in fact some of them have actually done something, then yes, they're there. Anyway, thank you all.